Hey, welcome to the Trick Taking Table. I'm Saint Trick. This is the 12 days of Trickmas. We're on day 5, Supreme Matcha Green. Yum. I don't really like matcha. Why am I face like this? That's right. Look at that. We're halfway. Pretty cool. Always wanted to do this ever since, spoiler alert, for the Last Man on Earth. Remember when Will Forte does this in Last Man on Earth? So fun, so funny. Look at this, huh? Hello. Hello. What does a normal person, what would a normal person say? I would like a loan, please. Hello, I'm at the bank and I would like a loan. Hello, one loan, please. Anyway, 5 is 5 golden rings, so we're covering Tax the Rich. Let's go to the hooks and show you how to play. Hey, in the mirror there, here we are at the Hall of Hooks, talking to you. Doing Powered Vacuum is the first game we'll cover. It is designed by Caleb Wentzell Fisher and Malachi Ray Rembin, I believe. Sorry if I got them wrong. So the hook to Power Vacuum is it's trick taking, and you're going to be playing trick taking. You can see the cards, the suits of the cards in the back, kind of pretty cool. Some cards are spies, which are lying about what suit they are. But then the other hook is you get a bonus for playing and winning the trick, playing the strongest, but you also get a bonus for playing the weakest, and the weakest gets to move around the power in the game, which is not only points, but it's also part of like a betting system. And the goal of the game is just to get 40 points, so try to do that. Also, the really fun thing is you can reveal your bet whenever you want, and the earlier you reveal it, the more points you get. I'm going to do a quick overview because I'm so timely and so current and so on top of things. That this game has been out for a bit, and some people have a wonderful, wonderful video, so I'll probably just do a brief overview of this, but I'll link in the description a wonderful how to play video. Next up, one of the biggest games at Essen, which is so cool, Tax the Rich, designed by Christian A. Ostby and Kjetil Svensson. So sorry, I'm terrible with names. But the hook to Tax the Rich is kind of like one of those old traditional games where you're bidding on what you think Trump is going to be, but then that also pushes what you have to be able to win. So it's kind of like a push and pull where you get to declare what Trump is, and you also get to pick a partner at 4 players, or different player counts than 3, I guess. But you get to have so much say in what it is, but then you're on the hook for winning a certain amount of tricks. That is not the big hook. What the fun big hook is, and again, depending on what you're playing, because there's a lot of variants that add even more hooks. But what the other fun big hook is when you have at the bottom just lower ranked cards, like 1 through 3. If that's all you have in your hand, you can declare a revolution and show your whole hand, and you're going to play open hand for the rest of the hand. And then lowest ranked cards are now beating highest ranked cards. So the hierarchy flips once someone declares a revolution. The other thing is the lowest, the number 1 card, if it wins, it gets to take a trick from the player with the most tricks. So the game arc has this interesting thing where it's like strong cards are stronger, strong cards are stronger, and then a revolution happens, and then all the lower cards are actually strong, and they're like taking cards. Kind of an interesting arc there. Also, the highest card, which is I think the president, the 12, can never be led because it's an incompetent leader. Those are some of the hooks. There's also some other twists. There's like a feminist revolution. There's other things as well. But we're going to show off that game, Tax the Rich, and Power Vacuum at the table now. The deck in Tax the Rich is 4 suits numbered 1 through 12, but that's at 3 and 4 players. At 5+, you're actually going to include 7.5s, 5.5s, and 3.5s. Here we have a game of Tax the Rich set up for 4 players, and depending on the player count, you're going to change the deck makeup. But at 4 players, you're going to shuffle and deal the cards evenly to each player. At 3 players, you're actually going to have 12 unused cards. They're just cut and hidden for the round. But how it works is, starting with a player with the most money in their pocket, let's say it's the $20 bill, that makes the most sense, they are going to be bidding on what they want Trump to be in the round, and for them to be on the hook for winning this many tricks out of 12. So 20 is going to look at their hand secretly, and they have a good amount of nothing. They have kind of an even keel. I guess they have a little orange. So maybe they're going to bid orange. And how bidding it works is you can always go higher and to the right. So it's currently starting at 1 green. They can do 1 red, or maybe 2 yellow or 2 blue. They can always go to the right, or they can go up. So For example, maybe they said they had a couple orange there. Maybe they're going to go to 2 orange. They could have gone to 1 orange, but maybe they're feeling a little spicy and they go to 2 orange. So what this means is, if everyone passed after this, there would be a round of play, the first round of play, where the trump suit would be this orange bag suit, and the person who declared the $20 bill would have to win at least 2 tricks, and they would try to win it with a partner, so they'd be on a team with someone. But I don't believe that's going to stay like that for very long. Coming to the tree, they have a lot of yellow and a good amount of blue. Maybe they're going to think yellow, so they're going to go 3 yellow. Then coming to the 5, they have a fair amount of everything, so they're fine with whatever happens. They're going to pass. Coming to the 1,000, they have a lot of green, so they're actually going to go 6 green, so they're jumping up a lot. Maybe it's too much for the $20 bill, so they are going to pass. And coming to the tree, they are also going to pass. And if it comes back to you and you already passed before, you can jump back in. So maybe this player, says 6 orange, and then it comes up here and they go 8 green, and then it goes pass 20, pass tree, and then maybe that's too rich for the 5 and they pass on this. So then once everyone passes in a row, the last person to bid is going to be the kind of declarer for the round. And that's how many tricks they need to win with whoever's on their team. So now that we know what the trump suit is and who the declarer is, how we found out who's on their team is they're going to look at their hand and they're going to declare a card, a rank and a suit, and the player who has that card is going to be on a team with them. So since it's green, they're looking at their hand and they actually don't have the highest of green or the lowest of green. They just have some green, so maybe not the smartest of bids, but they are going to declare whoever has the 12 in green is on their team. And so that person immediately says who it is. So the 5 would go, that's me. And so now the 5 and the 1,000 yen are going to be on a team versus the $20 bill and the jingle bell tree. And the goal is for this team combined to win 8 tricks or more. And the goal for over here is for them to set them. So they need to score 5 tricks or more to set them. So we're going to actually set this out of the way. And as you can see, we're going to play 3 total rounds, and the rounds get worth more points as we go, but we'll cover that in scoring. So the trick taking starts with the declarer, and it is must follow. So if they play an orange, coming to the bill there, they would have to play an orange. And the winner of the trick is whoever played the highest orange. So the $5 bill here would win this trick because there wasn't any trump in it. And the other interesting thing about leading is, so let's say it goes to the 5 player, you can never lead the highest card in the suit, which is the incompetent leader card. And so the number 12s and all the suits have that on top of it, and that just means you can't play it into the trick as your lead. You can only play it when following or when short suited or whatever it may be. So looking at their hand here, maybe they decide to lead again with orange. And let's say coming to jingle bell here, they don't have any orange. They can trump in if they want and toss in maybe a low trump if they wanted to. And the highest trump, if it's in there, would win the trick. So the jingle bell would win that trick. So flow like that is going to continue, except for in the middle of the hand, there can be a revolution. And that is what the red flag is. That's a revolution. There's also a possibility of a feminist revolution, but that is a variant that I'll explain after. So how a revolution works is if, when it comes to you, you only have cards with red flags in your hand, you can show your hand and go, revolution. I don't know if you have to yell it, but what happens now is now instead of the highest being the strongest, now it's the lowest being the strongest. So let's say it came to the jingle bell player, and this could be when you have to follow, or this could be when you're leading. So let's say it actually was led yellow. So yeah, let's say that it was led yellow by the $20 bill, and it comes to the tree and they show their hand and they go revolution, and you're going to show your hand face up. These are tricks that they won, sorry. And how it works is they're still following suit, but now if they play into the trick, and let me just finish that out for an example here, the lowest will win. So the tree will actually win this trick. And other special thing, the tax the rich up top here on this card. What that means is, if you ever win a trick with a 1, you may steal a trick from the player who has the most tricks. If it's tied, you can choose between the players, and if it's your teammate, you definitely can take a trick from them because it's on the same team and it actually matters for scoring. So this player over here, if they won this trick, maybe the 5 over here has the most because it's 1, 1, 2, and 2, they can actually take this trick from them and then take the rest of the trick for themselves. And a notable thing is it's among other players who has the most. So even if this player had like 10 tricks and then it was like 1, 1, 2, they would still be able to steal from the $5 bill. So that's pretty much the gameplay. The one final thing that I didn't mention was the feminist revolution. So same thing, if all the cards in your hand are showing a feminist revolution symbol, then you can reveal and go feminist revolution. The funny thing about this one is it's kind of both. So I imagine you picked which revolution, but let me grab a card with another feminist symbol on it, like this 5 here. So notice the 5 isn't a low card, but it's kind of in the middle, but it still has the feminist revolution symbol on it. You can declare feminist revolution like this. And what that does is now all of the female characters, which are listed on this card, have now +10 to their rank. So the mother, the teacher, the artist, journalist, bureaucrat, scientist, and the judge. So if I declare a feminist revolution and I play this in here, it's not the lowest that wins like the revolution, it's actually just a feminist revolution. So now this is a 15 in orange. So now at the end of the round, how scoring works is every player individually is going to get a point per trick that they won, agnostic of their team. Then you're going to see if the team that bid successfully hit equal or higher to that number of tricks. So in this case, in this first round, we have the 1,000 yen and the $5 bill. They bid 8. So if combined, they got 8 or more tricks, they would get the first round's points for that kind of row there. As you can see, 8 points. If they would have bid higher, it would have been worth 10, or higher, still it would have been worth 12. But they bid for 8, so they would have gotten 8 points. If they didn't, the other team would have gotten those 8 points for setting them. Then you're going to reset everything, reshuffle, deal. You're going to have a new kind of flow of deciding on what trump will be, but then you will use the second round's scoring. And then after 3 rounds, whoever has the most points wins. One final variant are these rule cards here, and there's a different one for each of the ranks in the game. So like this one, the mother counts as an extra trick if you win the mother. And what you're going to do is you're going to shuffle these, and you're going to set one next to the board, and you're going to have 1 in the first round, and then 2 in the second round, and then maybe 3 in the third round. And all they do is add more and more kind of specialness whenever that card comes out. So for example, the mother here counts as 2 tricks, or counts as an extra trick. You would take the mother card out of a trick that you won, and it would count as 2. Or the scientist here, ignore the strongest card. So in an example with the scientist, let's say it was lead orange, they would ignore that 12, and the 7 would count. There is rules to where if there are 2 scientists in the trick, they would then again ignore the next highest card, and so on, to the point where if it's all scientists in the trick, you just completely ignore the trick. So anyway, there's some fun FAQ that I'll leave you to explore in the rules cards for the game, but that is essentially how to play Tax the Rich. Here we have Power Vacuum, super quick and dirty. There's a much better rules teach, so I'll just do a quick overview. Essentially, trick-taking game where you have a hand of cards, red is trump. There's also spies in the game, and what that means is on the back of players' cards, they have the suit on them. As you can see, this red 3 shows a 3 in the back, but some cards might not be what they are. So this white card here looks like a white card, but if you flip it, it's actually a spy. And how it works is highest of the lead suit is going to win. Unless there's a trump in there, then highest trump is going to win. Unless if there's a trump and a spy, the highest spy would win the trick. If there's just spies and no trump, then it's just highest of the lead suit. But the spies are a little spooky and nasty. In addition to playing cards, every player is dealt an agenda card, which they keep secret from everyone. And it has 2 sides on it, and this is who you think is going to have the most power and who you think is going to have the least power. And if you're red here, maybe you want you to have the most power because that's points, you want points, or you could flip it and have you on the bottom and kind of align with other people to give yourself the least, because you do get points for hitting your bid. Also, you get more points the sooner you reveal your bid. So if you reveal it on the first trick or so, you can be like, oh, look at that. This is what I want, everyone. People will know what that you want, but you're actually going to get more points the earlier you reveal. So if you reveal and you get both of them right, you're going to get 16 points if you do it that early. Whereas later on, you would just get 10. If you wait till the very end, you can reveal, and that's kind of like all or nothing.
Whereas if you revealed earlier and got only one of them right, that'd be worth 5 points. If you got this one wrong, you'd still get that 5 points. But down here, you have to get them both right to be able to get any points. And that's 14 you would get or nothing. So that's one way you get points. You also get points for winning tricks. You also get points whenever, at the very end, you get cashed out for electricity. So each one starts with like 2 electricity. And through the course of the game, whenever someone plays the lowest number, they get to siphon off electricity and then move these pegs. So let's say the pegs were right here, and this player just won a trick, and they had it like this, where they want red to have the most. They could siphon off electricity, not from the center. I want to put some on the white here. They'll siphon off electricity from the white to the red, and then they have to move the peg. And they'll move the peg maybe over here, and maybe they could win another trick and siphon off some electricity from this player over into them. That'd be awesome, because at the end of the round, you're going to check your bids, then you've got a point per trick, and then also you're going to get these points that are in front of your person. So that's great. First to 40 points. I hope that was roughly correct. That's roughly how to play Power Vacuum.
So that is Tax the Rich and Power Vacuum, and we're drinking Supreme Matcha Green. I don't know about you, but matcha always tastes to me like those Quaker rice cracker, those like circles that are kind of styrofoamy. I don't think they're bad. I think they're good. But I can't break that association. It's like key lime LaCroix. Tastes like a green Skittle. I just can't break it. Anywho, we're talking about games. Tax the Rich. This was provided to me from the publisher, the designers, so huge grain of salt for final thoughts. But Tax the Rich was pretty high up on a lot of people's Essen lists for this year. A lot of hot thumbs. A lot of thumbs on the hot list, and the designer diary got a lot of buzz. So I was super excited for this one. I think the way the mechanisms and the gameplay tie to the theme and the narrative that it's trying to tell do a great job. There's moments like the president card, the highest number in a suit, is an incompetent leader, so you can't lead with it, but also the lowest ranked cards can cause a revolution later on in the hand. It's very thematic in ways that also tie into what you would want in a trick-taking game to balance both high cards and low cards. Like the highest card in the suit, you can't lead with it, which is good because usually, in trick-taking games, like these ones especially, where you just want tricks as many as you can, you'll lead with the highest. It's kind of like obvious plays. Well, that can't quite happen in games like this. So sometimes when you have the lead and you have those incompetent leaders, you're kind of like mad at them, which feels right for being mad at an incompetent leader. And then also, in all the hands we've played with the Revolution, they always went where the highest would win, the highest would win, the highest would win, and then somewhere near the end, someone would declare a revolution, obviously, because if that's all you have in your hand, you want to make your hand stronger. So show the revolution, and then the tail end of a hand would always be a revolution. And if it's kind of like a narrative that maybe the designers are seeing as like the lower numbers are oppressed for the whole hand, and then near the end they cause a revolution, now they're in control and in power. I think that narrative works really well with, again, we talk about in trick-taking games where you want the high cards to be good, you want the low cards to be good, and kind of this balance. It's cool that they value low cards in that way, and also makes you think about that in terms of the bidding. So to the bidding, I think it's pretty standard. We've talked about games like this, very traditional feeling where, you're bidding for trump, you're bidding for control, and also to call out a partner. And then, but then you're on the hook for higher tricks. I do think, even though we talked about how like highs are low and goods are low, goods are low, high cards are strong and low cards are strong. There is something though to this kind of format that not irks me, but is always a thing where if you get dealt perfectly all the suits, like 3 of each or whatever, it's really hard to bid in this one. Yeah, you could bid for like what you have some high cards in, or maybe some low cards in this game, but you never can really be a part of it. I think the best part of bidding in these are if you have like 5 or 6 of a certain color, you're like, okay, I definitely want that to be trump, and you have like a very direction to go, because then especially if you have 5 or 6 in the color, 12 is the number of suits if I'm remembering correctly. So if you definitely have like 7+ in a color, you definitely want to start bidding, because then you also get to call out the highest, or maybe the 1 or the 2 that you don't have, because then as a team you have most of the colors. I think this is a clear system. It's a good system overall, but I do think sometimes when you get dealt a mix of suits, you're kind of out of it, for lack of a better term, because you just can't get on the hook for higher numbers of tricks, which which is unfortunate. Also, again, this is a me thing. I don't personally love when points go higher as it gets later in the round. I don't love that you could just be winning more points for doing better in round 3 instead of round 1. Again, personal gripe, because nothing really changes without the variant, which is something definitely to talk about. But I do think overall it's a good system overall. You know, it's based on old traditional systems, so ain't broke, don't fix it. I also will say, I think I played like 5 hands or 6 hands or something where I just had the basic revolutions in the game, and the arcs became a little samey to where you would play it, you know, later in the hand. Someone would always reveal, and then it would always be lowest. So you can play around that. But I think, and this is what the designers I believe recommend, so I will say maybe do that for the first hand or 2, but switch to using the feminist revolution and maybe some of these extra kind of power cards or rule cards. I think that's what they call them in the rules. Because what I've noticed is, like I said, some of the arcs are the same if you just have the 1 revolution, but when you throw in the feminist revolution, you only can have 1 revolution per hand. There's a cool tension where you're not sure which revolution it'll be, especially because if you're going toward it being a low, someone calls a feminist revolution, you're like, oh no, because the 1s and the 3s are not feminists, if I remember correctly. I think it's just the mothers. The feminist revolution cards are different, for the most part, cards than the revolution cards. Some are overlapped, and it's fun to kind of go toward the overlap just in case you're safe either way. Anywho, it's really cool how when you have both revolutions, you're not sure which will happen, and also sometimes it can happen maybe less at the end with the lows and more kind of near the middle when there's more chances of revolutions happening. So definitely recommend using the feminist revolution, maybe without it for the first hand or 2 just to get a sense of the game. And then to the rules cards, some are good, some are okay. I think for the most part they're there maybe to throw in some spice, and they're cool. I think in a game I would throw in a couple. I don't know if I'd have like 3 in a round or whatever it would be. For the most part they do interesting stuff, but it does kind of feel a little like varieties for variety's sake, and sometimes it feels a little not what the game's doing. Like the fact that the scientists, like it's cool that it ignores the strongest card. It feels like a mechanism from another game put into this, and it feels like, oh, okay. But they're fine, they're cool. I mean, like overall, they will change how you play, which is maybe what you want. But I think for like the core experience, we only included like maybe 1, was kind of our preference. Overall though, I think, yeah, narrative to gameplay, really great, really strong. Oh, also the fact that the 1s can like redistribute the tricks, super clever way of handling that in the theme as well. Another thing is I think I prefer this at 3 players, so maybe it's just the folks I play with, but when you're playing 2v2 and one team got to set both the trump and pick a partner with usually like the highest trump or the strongest card or whatever, that team just dominates. And there's something to where you can't quite push them super high in the tricks when you don't have something to fall back on. Back to what I was talking about, if you have like 3 cards in each suit or whatever, you can't quite push people high up on this ladder if they can just call your bluff and then you are just like hosed. So if you have a hand that can probably do 6 or 7, that's kind of the limit of what you can push someone else, right? Because you can't try to push them to go 11 10 because then they can just back out and then you're on the hook and it's not great. So I think the 2v2 is just like players who can play super well will just like dominate. Like if you win the bid, I've just always seen it just like go. So I think I prefer it to be 3-player because then it's 1v2, and the fact that that 1 player got to control trump is a huge step up, but then they're playing against 2 opponents who should have weaker hands, right? So I think I'd prefer this at 3. And the 4-player was okay. I think there's a fun tension, and this is at 3 players for the players that aren't on the sole declare team. There's a really cool idea of how do you balance like team games when there's only 1 winner at the end, and it's the fact that the tricks you win are points for yourself. And then there's some fun tension where sometimes you're playing on a team with someone and you're like, we have to beat this other person, right? And then, or the other team, and you're trying to win tricks, and sometimes they'll win tricks over you with a strong card, and you're like, you should save that strong card for later, why are we fighting each other? And it's because, you know, you're trying to get points. I will say also at 3, it helps to where you can be the sole declarer if you're behind. There's a classic thing in individual winning games with shifting teams, like Mew, if you've played, where if you're on a team in the 3rd round with the winner, and there's no way you can win that many more tricks than them, even if you do really, really well, you're kind of just like, okay, sure, you know? Or like if you're ever on a team with just someone who's doing much better than you, you're like, okay, whatever. So I do think I love the 3-player for that as well, is because if you really, really work hard, or if you really want to declare, of course you need a good hand for it, I guess, you can be alone and try to win those points alone against the other players. So yeah, I would recommend it at 3. I think that's my favorite. 4 is okay. Intro game, okay. I think you do want that Feminist Revolution. And then if you're feeling some more spice, definitely some more rules cards. But overall, whew, good stuff. I think thematic integration into the game and the fun balance of both this new kind of twist on the genre with like an old traditional kind of bidding system works well. So good stuff. Check out Tax the Rich. Onto Power Vacuum. Oh, we are so late in covering this, my goodness. But let's start off with the production, the art, the graphic design. Everything about this is so funny. If you know me, I love humor. I think Power Vacuum is a great bit. The fact that power, you want power, is literally power. You're building a monument to yourself. It's not even 40 points. I think there's something funny to the game where telling someone that they win by building the monument, and like, how do you build a monument, was you build it step by step by getting 5 points or 10 points each, and then it's essentially just saying like you need, I think it's like 40 points or something to win the game, is funny. I think this is all funny. There's nothing like playing this game and just having a smile on your face. I think maybe just games win me over with their humor. Maybe it's a trick that will get me every single time, but it does. I do think the production, though, is super stellar. The magnetic board feels fun to bloop, satisfyingly move that little cord around. The cards are big. The art is nice. Very, is that Soviet Union kind of era, evocative of that. To the gameplay. It's interesting. We love Bug Council at Backyardia on the channel, and that's where the highest will do stuff, the lowest will play Mancala, and we love Mancala. This one where those kind of are a little different, right? Like you have winning being able to either take a card for next round or just win a point, and then lowest is now moving the plug around. There's stuff I like about both and stuff I don't like about both. The winning of a trick, it's a decision that I think sometimes can work. If you get a choice of like, do I want to keep this low trump for next round, or do I just take the point? Definitely makes sense, but I think for the most part, maybe it's just in my games, players just never did it, and it became kind of like a slow thing where like it was always like, oh, do you want to? They would take the trick, and they're like, oh, actually, do you want that card instead of the point or whatever? Like instead of winning the trick, do you want to use that for later? And players are like, oh, okay, let me think, and it like 80, 90, 95% of the time, it'd be like, no. So in my preference, I wouldn't have that in the game just because I think it slows it down. And also, like, you're saving a card for later, and then to use it later, you're either going to hopefully have that card either win a trick again, so you're in the same exact spot, or you're winning a trick and moving the power. So again, that's kind of like low off trump, because even if you have like high trump, that's not a guaranteed trick later. Nothing's guaranteed in this game, you know? You never know. So I feel like I wish it would just like win a trick and you can like wheel and deal a little bit faster in this game, because the game's already a little bit considered. You're moving around power, you're thinking about your bet, you're thinking about when to reveal your bet. So I don't love that part of the game. But I do think in the power movement of it all, there's some really cool maneuvers you can set up. I liked when, I think a huge rule that is so impactful is that when there's no power, so like maybe it looks like this, boop, and nothing over here, and these are connected, you have to move from one power to the next. And it was really fun to, when I was playing low, set that up for the next trick, and then try to play high in that trick. And then the person who played low was like, oh, my one chance to be able to play low, and I have to do something. I'm forced to move it one way. And I was like, haha, yes, good. It was a little bit like masterminding things. But again, really smart move is that even if you are forced to move power to the vacancy, you still get that choice of where to move the plug. So those two choices there mean even if you play low and you don't get to choose where the power goes, you still have a choice, and that is just so impactful. Super fun, super clever. I think the moving of the power and the fact that it's both tied to the bid and just your points. You are players on the board. Super clever. And also the fact that there's also there's just a power bank. I don't know what it is about just having a power bank here. It lets players sometimes be like, you know what, I'll just go to the power bank and not have to worry about who's doing what and what. It's almost like a release valve in a way. Or also just to go there and tie yourself there and just slowly siphon points that way. Super cool. I think the betting and when you reveal is a fun touch. I almost wish when you go all the way through to the end was maybe, like, it is all or nothing, like you have to get both of them right. I get that. I almost wish it was more points or something. There's something weird to me where it's like 8, 7, 6, 5 for the bidding, and then it's 14 or 0 at the end, which feels like the 7, if that makes sense. I almost want it to just be like more extreme, because just players would, maybe it's, again, the people I play with, they would always just reveal early to get like the 16, and then just kind of wheel and deal from there. So yeah, if you like possible negotiation, if you like possibly fun moments where you can, let's say I'm the yellow player and I say I'm going to go least to try to politic and at least get 16 points from the double bid. Super fun. I think there's cool moments in the game. I will say I've had players bounce off of it from it not feeling too trick-taking-y, or bounce off of it from the lack of control if you don't have the highest or the lowest, and feeling, because you can get dealt hands in this that aren't the best, and I think that's what the choice of, do you want this to win this trick or do you want to use that card for later, is meant to maybe patch up. But I don't know if it quite does it, because you have to have good cards in the first place to even have that choice. So yeah, you can get hurt by like a bad deal. I do think you can maybe politic your way on still getting at least the bidding points, which is fun. But I've had games where you just players got dunked on, you know, and it's definitely not a fault of their own. I do like the card back flow. I like that you can cheat and lie. That's fun and like thematic in a way, in a definite way, because the spies are really, really fun. And they beat the Trump. There's a good kind of flow there. Overall, I like what this is doing. I think just some edges like are a little stilted for as smooth of a trick-taking experience, you know, coming from more of a trick-taking view, that I would want this to be. But overall, there's fun moves you can set up. I think them moving around and betting and revealing is satisfying when you reveal. So overall, good time. I like Power Vacuum. I don't know if it is super expectation-based or player-dependent. I've played with players that really did not like this, and I think it's almost that level of, there's, you know, slight negotiation, there's slight convincing sometimes that sometimes ekes its way into this game. And then also finally, yeah, you can just get a bad hand. So maybe I just haven't had rounds of this where my hand was like that bad. I felt like I could always kind of do something in the game. But the fact that that can happen is definitely makes sense for folks not to love this game. But where I'm coming from, I think it's fun. So that is Power Vacuum and Tax Switch. Thank you so much for watching. I think 7 more days of Trickmas. I hope you're enjoying it, and you can kind of see my beard actually growing in real time. Look at that. Real magic. How does hair work? That doesn't make any sense. You ever think about that? Is it dead skin cells? Or is that a myth? I don't know anything. I don't know how light bulbs work. I don't know how engine works. Okay. Bye.